Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, heroes in the half shell.
The newest TMNT game, made by Tribute Games, Shredder's Revenge, lets fans team up once again to kick some shell. This time, allowing up to 6 players all at once locally or online. That's right, not only the 4 Ninja Turtles, but also Master Splinter, reporter April O'Neil, and masked vigilante Casey Jones, all join the fray as playable characters in this retro-styled side-scrolling beat-em-up. Now before we dive deep into this review, as this is the first review posted on this channel, ICMK, allow me to explain how the rating system will work here. Instead of numbers, we will use a letter grading system. And rather than everything all at once, different aspects will be graded individually, such as visuals, sound, gameplay, and more, and then overall grade. The first thing to be noticed is how beautiful this pixelated game is. With so much detail, and everything looking so clean and spot on for the classic TMNT look, it may just be one of the best looking pixel art games of all time. On top of that, all the frames of animation make everything feel fluid. As far as the sound design goes, nothing sounds out of place or anything, so that is a job well done in itself. But what really sticks out the most is the great voice acting and the amazing soundtrack. Original TMNT music including a banger of a track from Ghostface Killah.
Heroes in a half shell going to war. Got the city under siege and they holding the fort. Got extra large pizza boxes all on the floor. Get sized up by a negative force. Your time's up on whatever you thought. Individual starving the floor. So the samurai swords on point for the cause. Dangerous metals highlight the reign of terror. The twilight meets the reign of Shredder. All for one and train together. The dark clouds and the strangest weather. Breaking news.
No wonder why they are releasing the soundtrack on disc. Unfortunately, the only track I'm not a big fan of is the title screen theme. It isn't terrible, but for some reason it sticks out to me as a weak one, and it will be heard a lot. Despite my opinion on that, overall, the sound design, voice acting, and soundtrack of this game are terrific.
Turtles, let's get our shells and gear. Mondo notion, dude!
So what now, fearless leader?
Well, what are we waiting for?
This is April O'Neil, reporting live.
We must stop them. Let's bust some crime!
Ooh, say your prayers!
I am one tired turtle.
Ow, my horns!
Easy peasy.
Even though this isn't the typical type of game one would play for the story, the quality of it still matters. All in all, it isn't bad, but nothing that isn't typical for a TMNT arcade game. Shredder and his goons take over Channel 6 and the Statue of Liberty, and while you chase down Shredhead, you will see pieces of Krang's robotic bodysuit being acquired. However, it is never exactly clear as to why you are chasing these people, rather than heading straight to the Statue of Liberty. Another thing that goes unexplained, in the 4th level, Rocksteady and Bebop are captured by Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. I am familiar with these characters to a small amount, as in I've seen them before, but I do not understand the context of what is going on at this part of the story. It is like a fill-in-the-blank moment. But, even if there were better story explanation, the overall story as it is would still be very generic for a TMNT story. One big bright spot is all the characters in this game, from cameos of lesser side characters like Irma, to top fan favorites like Slash, Leatherhead, Metalhead, and more as boss fights. Also some nice surprises like Ground Chuck, Dirtbag, Tempestra, and General Zorax in the Pterodon race. The variety making for an enjoyable playthrough. Most would simply expect to just mash some buttons in an arcade-style beat-em-up game like this. However, this side-scrolling beat-em-up comes with a surprising amount of depth in its gameplay mechanics. You got uppercuts that can launch, dodge attacks and counter with your own, dashing attacks, air attacks, and a few different types of super attacks. No, it does not have the depth of a DMC or Bayonetta game, but it is impressive with the amount of depth there is in the mechanics for a game like this. It is like seeing old-school classic game design, but evolved. With 7 playable characters, 16 stages, over 20 different bosses and boss fights, it is surprising how much content is actually here, when expectations were more for about half of it. There are 2 modes of play for up to 6 players either locally or online, but not both at the same time unfortunately. The 2 modes being Story Mode, and Arcade Mode. Story Mode has additional challenges and collectibles to find, while Arcade Mode is where you'll compete on the leaderboards with high scores of arcade playthroughs. Additionally, the trophies function is implemented very well and gives you some additional challenges to try to accomplish. Unfortunately, the leaderboards are essentially broken, or at least borderline meaningless at the moment. As I will show here, on night 2 of the game being released, I was able to easily take the number 1 spot on the leaderboards. This is thanks to an obvious exploit that essentially lets you get an unlimited amount of points, just takes time and endurance, with my high score there taking about 5 hours. This exploit also exposes the design flaw of the scoring system, where you, for the most part, only gain 1 point per enemy you defeat. 2 on certain enemies, and some more for bosses. It really is unfortunate that this is the situation for the leaderboards, as high score competition is typically the end game for arcade-styled like games. Due to this, there is no real reason to bother with high score chasing, hurting the overall value sum, as once you get all the trophies, there isn't anything else to accomplish. That doesn't stop the game from being a great enjoyable game to play through, but you probably will be done with this title in just a few days, if not sooner. Then there is other smaller design issues, such as a user interface that at first can confuse you on how to find a game online, unable to limit party size to say 4 instead of 6, for examples. But nothing major aside from the leaderboards. On the tech side of things, the game runs very smoothly, even with a full game of 6 players. Sure, there can be some network issues with other players that can cause game-stopping glitches, but I blame that more on connection strength between players more than an issue with the game itself. In general, the game runs at a very smooth frame rate. Things can get a little crazy with a full game of 6, but turning off the camera shake helps with keeping up with the chaos. Speaking of the camera shake, I don't like it at all in this game, to be honest, but you can turn it off, so I won't penalize them for it. A common enough of a bug to mention it: when you walk off an edge and do an attack, which will be an air attack, your character will get stuck in the animation frame and frozen in place momentarily. I believe this is due to you not pressing the jump button first, breaking the loop, and the character not returning to the proper state. Other bugs, like enemies getting stuck off screen, enemies or players being invisible, respawning and being stuck off screen, just to name a few. If these bugs were more of a rarity, then wouldn't be as big of a deal, and it isn't like Avengers or Cyberpunk bad, but the technical side of things sure have some cleaning up that could be done. At least the game won't hard crash or soft lock from my experience thus far. Overall, this is a very fun arcade-styled game to play. On one hand, this game offers much more than expected, but on the other hand, it could have been even better. I mean, why is there cut content? Where is the surfing level? What about the collectibles and NPCs in Dimension X? Despite its flaws, Shredder's Revenge is worth the price of admission for any TMNT fans, or fans of the genre in general. Is it the best TMNT game ever? I'd have to say simply, no it is not. But it is one of the best ever, and one fans are sure to get enjoyment out of.